My life changed the day I came home sick. I never would have believed that something as ordinary as catching the flu could flip my world upside down. That day, I left work early, worn out, feverish, just wanting to collapse into the comfort of my own bed. All I craved was rest and maybe some care from my wife. But when I stepped into our driveway, what I found shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. A truck I didn't recognize was parked outside. It wasn't just the flu churning in my stomach anymore, a deeper unease began to spread. As I entered the house, faint noises drifted from the direction of our bedroom. My steps slowed. Something was wrong. Dread crawled over me like a cold sweat. I edged toward the slightly open bedroom door. Through the narrow gap, I saw something that split my world apart in one breathless moment. There she was, my wife, entangled with a stranger. A man I'd never seen. The scene hit me harder than the fever. In that instant, everything changed. It wasn't just the collapse of a marriage. It was the violent birth of a new life, one I hadn't asked for, but now had no choice but to face. Before I walk you through how it all unfolded, let me say this: if you want to avoid the kind of heartbreak I experienced, subscribe to my channel. Every day, we share raw, real-life stories like this, lessons learned the hardest way. Drop a like if this story resonates, and feel free to comment with your own experience or thoughts. Let's help each other heal. Now, let me take you back to that Thursday morning. The flu had hit me hard. By lunchtime, my boss insisted I head home before I spread it around the office. I didn't argue. All I could think of on the drive was Beth, my wife, bringing me soup, helping me recover, maybe lying next to me while I slept it off. I imagined her kindness, her warmth. But as I pulled up to our home, I noticed a truck I didn't recognize parked out front. Even through the haze of fever, it felt off. Still, I didn't dwell on it. I parked my car down the street, figuring maybe it was a delivery or a visitor for a neighbor. The house was silent. Strangely silent. I called out her name. Nothing. No footsteps, no response, just that heavy quiet that makes your chest tighten. Then I heard it. Faint but unmistakable, moaning. The kind that leaves no room for misinterpretation. Two voices. One of them hers. Every step toward the bedroom felt heavier than the last. A voice inside me screamed to turn back, to walk away before I saw something I couldn't unsee. But I kept going. I had to know. I stopped at the door, which was slightly ajar. Through the gap, I saw her. My Beth. Naked. Moving with another man like I didn't exist. Like I never had. The way she clung to him, gave herself to him, it stabbed through everything I believed about my life. She screamed, "God, yes, give it to me." The sound punched the air out of my lungs. I stood frozen. Not just in pain, but disbelief. How didn't I see this coming? I thought. How could I have been so blind? My fists clenched. My jaw tightened. A part of me wanted to storm in, shout, demand answers. But I didn't. I just stood there, paralyzed by the weight of betrayal. And then, a strange clarity hit me. It wasn't only heartbreak I felt, it was a strange, raw kind of freedom. Like a rope around my neck had suddenly snapped. This wasn't just the collapse of my marriage, it was the opening of a door I didn't know I needed. I eased the door open just slightly more. Raised my phone. Took photos. Not out of spite, but to remind myself that this moment was real. That I hadn't imagined it. That she had made her choice. Beth's face. His arms. The sheets. I captured it all. Then I whispered, to myself more than anyone else, "You'll remember this forever." And I walked away. No confrontation. No dramatic showdown. Just silence. As I passed through the garage, I saw a screwdriver on the workbench. On impulse, I grabbed it and stabbed it into the tires of his truck. It was petty, I know. But in that moment, it was the only outlet I had. I got in my car and drove. Tears burned down my cheeks. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. For hours, I drove aimlessly, every thought wrapped around what I'd just seen. Beth. That man. How long had it been going on? Who was he? Did it matter? 24 years of marriage, gone. Just like that. Eventually, I pulled into a pharmacy and grabbed some flu meds. Then I checked into a motel across town. I couldn't sleep in that house. Not that night. That first night alone felt like a fever dream, part sickness, part heartbreak, part rage. Beth called me repeatedly, but I didn't answer. What could she possibly say? Sorry wouldn't put the pieces back together. Some things can't be undone. The next morning, I called work and told them I'd be out for a few days. I needed time. Not just to recover from the flu, but to figure out what came next. I knew one thing, I wasn't going back to that version of my life. This marriage? It was over. But leaving wasn't enough, I needed a plan. So I got to work. I contacted a lawyer. Emptied the joint accounts. Made sure the financial ties were clean. The wheels were in motion. It wasn't just about ending a relationship, it was about reclaiming my life. When I finally returned home, Beth was in the kitchen. Her face was pale. Eyes red and swollen from crying. She looked at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. Peter, please, we need to talk, she said, voice trembling. Just give me a chance. I looked at her. No anger. No shouting. Just a flat, emotionless calm. There's nothing left to fix, Beth, I said. This is done. I saw it with my own eyes, how you wrapped yourself in another man's arms. And in that one unforgettable moment, I knew there was no going back. We could never return to what we once were. Beth broke down, tears running freely as she pleaded, but I love you, it didn't mean anything. It was just a mistake. A mistake? I repeated, my voice shaking with fury barely held in check. The second you invited that man into our home, into our bed, you erased any love you ever claimed to have for me. This wasn't some accident, Beth. This was deliberate. And it's the end of us. Her face crumbled, and she stepped toward me, her arms outstretched, her voice cracking. Please, don't go. We can start fresh. I still love you. I don't even know why it happened, I just wanted something different, something exciting. But I need you. I still need you. I gently stepped back and pushed her hands away. My eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time, I felt nothing. I don't need you, Beth. Not anymore. Someday, someone will come into my life who will never betray me. I stared at the woman I had once loved with everything in me. And all I saw now was a stranger. I turned away. I'm going to pack my things. Pack, she asked, the panic rising in her voice. Why? Can't we just talk this through? I'm sorry, Peter. Please, we can fix this, she sobbed, her tears soaking her cheeks. But I didn't waver. There's nothing left to repair, Beth, I said, my voice cold but steady. The moment you brought him into our house, you made your decision. Now I'm making mine. She collapsed to the floor, her cries turning into raw, uncontrollable sobs. It was just sex, Peter, she screamed in desperation. It didn't mean anything. I don't want him, I want you. I love you. I stood there, watching her unravel, but her words rang hollow. You call this love? I asked quietly. You betrayed everything we built. You didn't just cheat, you destroyed the foundation of who we were. Beth dropped onto the bed, her body racked with sobs that echoed through the room. I stared at her and felt a strange mix of pity, revulsion, and emptiness. The woman I once saw as my world now meant absolutely nothing to me. In that moment, I understood the truth: the love was gone. And I was finally ready to let go. The weeks that followed were about survival and rebirth. I moved into a modest motel, hired a divorce lawyer, and resigned from my job. For the first time in years, I had no responsibilities. No titles. No obligations. No home. No wife. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I was free. I could go anywhere. So I did. Life surprised me in the most unexpected way when I met Maureen McDermott, a woman with fiery red hair and eyes that held stories of both sorrow and hope. We met through mutual friends, and from the moment we spoke, something clicked. A quiet, undeniable connection. Like me, Maureen had been burned by betrayal. But where pain had once ruled us both, something new began to bloom: peace. Understanding. A bond built on scars we weren't afraid to show. The more time we spent together, the stronger we grew. Day by day, we healed. And somewhere along the way, I realized this wasn't some rebound or distraction. This was fate giving us both another chance. Beth's betrayal didn't break me. It released me. It forced me out of a life where I'd been merely surviving and pushed me into a future I never thought possible. I no longer felt trapped. I no longer felt empty. And in the strangest twist of fate, I felt something I hadn't in years: gratitude. Standing on a mountaintop months later, with Maureen beside me, I stared out into the horizon and felt completely alive. Sometimes, life tears everything apart so it can rebuild you from scratch. Sometimes, the worst heartbreaks lead to the most beautiful transformations. That moment of betrayal, the one that gutted me, became the spark that led me back to myself. It gave me a new life, a new love, and a freedom I never knew I had. And it all began with a heart that had to be broken, so it could be made whole again.